Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Now, normally I'd be reviewing modern day camera gear, whether it be cameras, audio gear, microphones and that kind of stuff. Now, today I'm taking a look at an old camera. It's actually a very old camera. And it was really the first range of cameras that got me into photography and really enjoyed photography, and it really increased my enthusiasm to want to go out and take photographs. And the camera we're talking about, or the range of cameras, is Canon, and it's a Canon A1 we're looking at here. Now, I love this camera. This camera came out in 1978. That was the year I joined Debenhams. I worked for Green's Photographic in Debenhams. It was a concession within Debenhams. I worked there from 78 to 85. And it was because of that job, I really did start to build my photography hobby. And that's why I ended up going into my own business as a photographer and then video. So it's a great, beautiful camera. I think the design of it is absolutely gorgeous. I think the design now, even years later, it still stands up. It's a beautiful, beautiful design. Canon, I think, done a fabulous job with the design of this camera. And it's, one of my favourite cameras. Now, I couldn't afford the Canon A1 when it first came out. It was too expensive for me. I was only a young lad. I ended up getting the Canon AE1 that I have here, and again, beautiful camera. I love it. Needs a battery in there. I don't think there's a battery in it, but love the design of it. This was shutter priority. It didn't have aperture priority, so you adjust the shutter speed via a dial which is around the lever for advancing the film, cocking the shutter, basically. So shutter priority, obviously 35mm film camera, but the camera that I always wanted was the Canon A1. This was beautiful, absolutely love it. Now, the Canon A1's also 35mm camera, takes standard 35mm films, which luckily you can still buy now. So 35mm film in there, but the beauty with the A1, it was the first camera to have aperture priority, shutter priority, fully automatic and manual. And it was controlled via his control dial on the top here. So you've got a little lever on the front here, which would change that from aperture priority to shutter priority. Just adjust the lever. I say lever, it's a little dial here, little dial on the top there. So you move that to adjust it from shutter priority to aperture priority. And the little aperture ring shows up around on the dial underneath there, so you can adjust that to shutter aperture priority. And then that obviously cocks the shutter. I don't think the battery's working at the moment. Exposure compensation dial, and you set your ASA speed or ISO speed on there. So yeah, absolutely fantastic camera. Now, I actually dug out some slides that I took an event we were filming back in 1989. I've actually, well, my colleague wrote on there, Fort Park, 1989. I used to use Fuji film, you can see here, all these Fuji film slides. I always took slides as opposed to negatives. So I scanned these slides just to see, how good they are. Bearing in mind, these are years old. I say, dating back to 1989. And they came out really good. I was really, really pleased with how good these images came out. Considering this is a really, really old camera. These slides date back to the 1980s, well, late 80s, but the sharpness is still, pretty decent. I don't think it matches what I would get from a modern, well, it doesn't match what I would get from a modern day digital camera, but it's still really nice. And you look at these old cameras that we used then. We didn't have little cameras. I don't know, well, I haven't even got one on the desk here, but we didn't use your little mirrorless cameras that we're using now. I mean, I'm using my Fuji X-H2 as my main camera, my Fuji XS20 as the wide camera there, and I've got my ZV-1 Mark II getting me close-up shots, and I've got a little DJI Pocket 3 there getting another angle. We didn't have that luxury back in the 80s. We had to use really big cameras. That's a Sony camera on a tripod there with an umbilical cord that is actually joined to a separate recorder, pneumatic recorder we used back then. And that's how we did it. And there was a lot of equipment to lug around. Each take would only last 20 minutes. batteries didn't last very long at all, so we had to have lots of batteries for the recorder and for the camera. Manual white balance, there was no auto white balance. Black and white viewfinder. You know, very, very different to how we work these days. And you didn't have such things as HD, 4K, anything like that. It was what it was, and it was standard PAL, standard definition, you know, output. But the quality was, you know, for its day, it was fine. It, you know, done the job, and it was pretty decent. And we were doing actually a promotional video here for Thorpe Park back in the 80s then. Just got, I mean, there's me with a beard back then. Didn't suit me, but there you go. I didn't have it for long. But yeah, some really nice images here of our crew, us out filming, you know. Yeah, so great little camera. It's quite heavy to today's standards, but built like a tank. Well, you know, lasts a long time. Takes these weird sort of batteries that just slot in the front there. They weren't weird at the time, but they are, you know, difficult to get hold of these days. Yeah, so the images that this camera took were really, really good. And I was absolutely, you know, delighted using it. Now, it is manual focus. Now, I can't really get on with manual focus these days. I use autofocus for everything I do. And these modern day cameras are fantastic. The ID Tech works brilliantly. The autofocus is really strong. But in those days, you had to, you know, use manual focus, and it was what it was. And it was an optical viewfinder. And depending on the brand of a camera and the cost of a camera, depending on how good the optical viewfinder was. But yeah, so there's no screen on the back of a camera back then. You didn't have all the luxuries that we have today. Really, really nice camera. It helped me develop my photography business, my photography hobby. And I just love the styling of this Canon A1. The fact that it was an electronic camera, electronic 35mm camera. I know back in the day, a lot of photographers, professional photographers, didn't like the electronic cameras because they relied on a battery. They were so used to having a mechanical camera that you could take it out of the camera bag and you knew it was going to work. You didn't have to worry about batteries running out on you. Nowadays, we take that for granted, don't we? Every camera relies on a battery. Back then, we didn't take it for granted. We didn't like the fact that it relied on the battery. If this hasn't got a battery in, this camera won't work. It's as simple as that. It doesn't just use a battery for the metering. It uses the battery to cock the shutter, what have you. It is an electronic analog camera. But the fact that it had auto aperture priority, shutter priority, programmed automatic and manual, in a camera back in 1978 was phenomenal. To say that it's a program automatic, all you did was make sure you was in shutter priority and then just turn the dial right round to P. So on the front here, you've got a little command dial on the front here, and then you turn that until you got P, which is showing the little window there. Then that will set the aperture and shutter speed for you. And when you think about it, that design of having a control dial, command dial on the front was revolutionary back in the 70s. We take that for granted these days. Most modern cameras have a command dial on the front for adjusting the aperture and one on the back for adjusting the shutter speed. But that was revolutionary. You think that was back in 1978, a camera came out with a command dial on it, which is pretty bizarre. So yeah, there we go. That's a quick look at the old Canon A1, which I still think looks absolutely stunning and absolutely gorgeous today. That I purchased when I worked in Debenhams. And I said I took some great photographs, many photographs with it over time. These were just some I happened to find in my archive. There's another picture of me with my beard. That's the Canon A1. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this video kind of useful. Just a little look back at the old days and how we used to take photographs and video. There we go. Thanks very much. Cheers for now. Bye.